Getting into free agency time. The NFL, as you know, never sleeps. You go straight from the Super Bowl, and then you get into Combine after coaching carousel season, I guess. And then you get into free agency, which leads right into the draft, which leads into mini camps and schedule selections. You know the drill at this point, but we're now into the free agents portion of this. And I was reading up on Paulson Adebo in a story that Matthew Paris wrote over for The Advocate. And he wrote in the piece that Adebo expects to have several suitors across the league, and it's unlikely he'll have to settle for a one-year prove-it deal. And he would generally not be looking at a one-year prove-it deal based on his age and his production, because Paulson Adebo has been a really good player for the New Orleans Saints. You're looking at a guy who came in as a third-round pick. He was the 76th pick in the 2021 draft, and he was really good in his first 3 full seasons with New Orleans. He played in every game, started every game as a rookie at 22 years old. He played in 13 games, started 12 in 2022. In 2023, he played in 15 games and started all of them, and was a piece to a really strong defensive secondary under Dennis Allen with Marshawn Lattimore on the other side. And you had C.D. Deuce in there at times, and like there were other pieces, but like Paulson Adebo was really good for 4 years. And then in the middle of his 4th season, he has that horrific-looking injury. And at that point, you kind of look and you go, man, like, what are teams and their medical staffs going to think of Paulson Adebo? And you understand the salary cap situation the Saints are in, which is strapped a little bit. And if you're looking at a guy that's 25 years old that plays a premium position, and corner at this era of the NFL is a premium position, like that's a guy who's going to command a healthy sum of money, unless teams are unwilling to give him that big chunk of change because they haven't seen him post-injury. And the injury didn't look good. So it was reasonable for us analyzing the Saints. It seems inhumane and insensitive, but for us to analyze the Saints going, that injury may price him down to a re-sign with the Saints. Like that's something that you could see, and it would be like that 1-year prove-it deal. But Matthew Paris writes that's not what he anticipates is going to happen. Paris continues writing, a source with knowledge of the situation said the Saints haven't closed the door on Adebo, but Adebo is pursuing a deal that would make him one of the league's 10 highest paid corners, a price tag that might put New Orleans out of the hunt. I will say this. If Marshawn Lattimore becomes the 8th highest paid corner in the NFL, it will not be with the New Orleans Saints. I just don't think they can swim in that water right now. I'm well aware that the Saints tend to make almost everything work from a salary cap perspective, but this is something that I just can't envision, especially when you consider the fact they traded up for Kool-Aid McKinstry. You've got Alontae Taylor. They're thin there, but they've got high draft picks and young players invested in that position. And I think they're probably going to ride with that and pass on Adebo. It's just kind of what it feels like. Now, what Adebo expects or demands could be different from what the market dictates. But here's my guess. My guess is Chicago gets involved pretty quickly. That's because Chicago has a lot of money and Dennis Allen is there. Now, caveat. Maybe Paulson Adebo is among that number that was not thrilled with the Dennis Allen era in New Orleans. I don't know. I can't pretend to know. I know there were some players that were disgruntled near the end. Whether Paulson Adebo was one of those or not, I don't know. But Dennis Allen has had a good track record of developing corners. Chicago's got money if they want to pay him. They've fortified their offensive line this week, and they're looking to add elsewhere, and they've got a lot of money left over. And they may jump in there. But if there's a market in a bidding war, that's going to price the Saints out. And this, as much as anything, should reinforce to New Orleans the position that they're in and how non-advantageous it is, detrimental that it is to their pursuit of building a roster. When you have to look at a guy that you drafted, that you've helped develop, that you believe to be a good player, and you simply cannot get into the mix to pay him at a position where you're that thin, there's a big problem. And it should just be in big flashing red lights. You've got to do something different. There are plenty of teams that are $70 million under the salary cap, which means they're $100 million to the good on where you are. And your team just went what it did record-wise. And so this starts as a Paulson Adebo conversation, as a roster composition conversation, as a conversation that's going, is this a guy that you'd like to keep? Probably. Is this a guy that you can keep? No. Why? Because your salary cap situation stinks. And I keep hearing this rhetoric from those speaking with people inside the Saints organization that are talking about the next month of Saints roster building, that are talking about the Saints going out and spending money. And while they can't dump lump sum on one guy, spending really any significant money is just going to keep you in this spot. And it just seems so crystal clear to all of us who are sitting out here on the outside, whether it's you, the fan, who's listening to me or reading newspapers, reading whatever you are there, like anybody from the outside, it's like, this is obvious. You can't pay the players that you'd like to pay. Change it. And Adebo, to me, presents that. And you may have had, well, I certainly did, the fleeting hope that he would fall back in your lap after that injury. And you hope that he's a full go. And he may still, because the market may not pay him. I just suggest it probably will. And if he can go work out with somebody and demonstrate that he's up and running, which Luke Johnson told us yesterday that he's heard that he is, then that's going to be the end of the Paulson Adebo era in New Orleans. And then you have now, over the last, I guess it's March now, so 5 months, you've moved on from your top two corners, Marshawn Lattimore and Paulson Adebo. And by the way, trading Lattimore was a great idea. You recouped a draft pick. Don't have that luxury with Adebo. But that was a position of strength for you 3, 2, 1 year ago. Now it's a position where you're low on depth, and you're going to have to probably use a draft pick on it or potentially dip into the free agent market and get someone theoretically of lesser value than Adebo. So you get worse. See where I'm going with that? Like, pretty easy to connect those dots. And that's something that should be so obvious to the Saints when a 25-year-old free agent looks at you and you go, yeah, I got nothing for you. So we'll see. Oftentimes, players test the market and find out that the market doesn't view them in the same way that them and their agent do. But it feels like, based on the reporting that Matthew Paris is doing, the people that Luke Johnson has talked to, what I'm reading, that the Paulson Adebo era is probably done in New Orleans. So you look at Kool-Aid McKinstry, you say, grow up, kid. Look at Alontae Taylor, say, you got to step it up, kid. And then you probably have to supplement that with whatever you can, however you can, for less expensive. This was something I didn't really know about until this week, what Adebo's status was, but it sounds like he's 1, healthy, 2, very motivated financially, and that means that New Orleans is going to have to sit on the sideline. So if you're looking for more Saints content, you can find it from us at Hunt on Saints. That's Hunt on Saints. You can find us wherever you find your podcast, and of course on YouTube as well. Really, really appreciate y'all for subscribing up to that Hunt on Saints YouTube channel. Our things are going fantastically over there, and we really appreciate it. It's all Saints all year long, so if that's your thing, check it out, Hunt on Saints. Hey, it's Hunt. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.